Let's dive straight into the major story of tonight. If you have the liver, get ready and brace up. If you do not have the liver, better get a life jacket because it's getting overwhelming right here. And the heat and the ruling APC is getting more intense. Yesterday, a court in Kano gave what could be described as a reprieve to Mr. Adams Oshiomhole over the plans to remove him from office. The APC national chairman had criticized the Abuja court, which gave the earlier interlocutory order. But today, a constitutional lawyer and an aide to the governor of Edo State, Mr. Adaze Mwanta, are taking the matter to yet another interesting dimension. Mr. Mwanta today approached the Supreme Court, where he went to file a complaint against a judge of the Federal High Court in Kano, Justice Lewis Alagua, for alleged misconduct as a presiding judge. Justice Alagua on Thursday, that is yesterday, was the one who ruled in favor of the national chairman of the APC, Adams Oshiomhole. According to the petition filed by Mr. Mwanta and obtained by Channels Television, the interim order by Justice Alagua, according to him, was hurriedly granted in favor of the defendants in the suit less than 24 hours after Mr. Oshiomhole was stopped by an injunction from Justice Danlemi Senchi from parading himself as the APC national chairman. He said that Justice Alagua's ruling has inflicted a transitional crisis in the national headquarters of the APC. Mr. Mwanta is in our Abuja studio tonight, and also another lawyer, Mr. Ikide Egelua. Both of them will be talking to us on the program tonight. My panel is already ready in our Abuja studio. Mr. Mwanta, the man who went to the Supreme Court today and dragged the Justice Alagua of the Federal High Court in Kano to the before the NJC, and also Mr. Ekide Heglua. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Let me begin with you, Mr. Mwanta. It does look you and some people are bent on removing Mr. Oshiomhole. We thought that we will see it all in terms of how it all started with the High Court in Abuja until today. That you there seems to be some resilience in showing that you really want Mr. Oshiomhole out. Why were you bent on finding out or dragging the Justice Alagua before the NJC?
Yeah, thank you, Sean, and good evening to our viewers at home. I think we must quickly point out the fact that we are not planning to take Oshiomhole out. He's out already. He was removed in November as a member. He was suspended as a member of the party. And of course, this week on Wednesday, you know, the Federal High Court, the FCT High Courts sitting at Jabi, you know, gave an order that having been suspended as a member of the party, it was no longer tenable for him to remain as national chairman because his membership of the party is a foundation upon which he was elected as national chairman of the APC. Because for you to be a citizen of a country, it means you have certain rights and privileges. And just like in a country, the APC has a constitution. Section 9 of the constitution talks about rights and privileges of member. The moment you lose your membership of the APC, all those rights and privileges will not be available. And I think the courts haven't given that kind of order. One expected that, you know, having given that order, the national chairman vacates office. But he has been playing to the gallery. And unfortunately, instead of waiting for the Court of Appeal to decide the appeal he has given a notice for, he ran to Kano and procured what I think anybody would describe as an overnight injunction. Because if a court granted an order on the 4th of March, and curiously, after the court granted that order, in the afternoon of that same day, they went to Kano. Of course, we know that the governor of that state, you know, Ganduje, has some sympathy for Oshiomhole. And unfortunately, that court, within 24 hours from the time it was filed, less than 24 hours, an order was granted. When was the hearing? The hearing was granted within 24 hours. When were the documents of court filed? Just within 24 hours, a surprising order, which of course
Mr.
can
Mwanta,
make the Guinness Book of
Mr.
Records
Mwanta,
granted.
Mr.
It is the height of
Mwanta, hold on, apologies, please. You're making some inferences here. You've mentioned someone's name that before now has never come to light. You need to clarify, and you need to have your evidence before you drop the name of anyone, or else you might be taking up a challenge in that sense. When you're drawing up the name of another person, those are heavy and weighty allegations, Mr. Mwanta.
Thank you. I think I have to quickly make that clarification, because we know we have some pro-Oshiomhole governors. And obviously, this is a matter that is in Abuja. Oshiomhole was suspended in Edo State. So the question for every lawyer who is a discerning lawyer will be, why Kano, if an Abuja High Court gave an order and Oshiomhole filed an application for stay, which a hearing has not been fixed, he even appealed to the Court of Appeal, and an overnight order comes from Kano.
So what you are saying in essence, for you going to the NJC, for you petitioning Justice Alagwa, you want Justice Alagwa to be punished because of what you feel is not right. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
I think I must quickly put it in perspective. When you look at the order Justice Alagwa granted, I'm not going to talk about the speed with which he granted that order. I'm not going to even comment on the fact that in the history of this country, it has never happened that within 24 hours, after a judgment a ruling was delivered in another case, instead of the person against whom that order was given, right, to pursue his appeal, it goes to a court of coordinate jurisdiction, brings an application. Overnight, an order is granted, which appears to be an appeal. I mean, the court actually sat, Justice Alagwa actually sat on appeal over the Abuja order. No fair hearing was given to the other parties. And apart from the fact that no fair hearing was given...
Mr. Mwanta, apologies, just a moment. Let's bring Mr. Heigelwa into the conversation. He's also a lawyer. Your colleague, Mr. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Heigelwa. Give us a sense of what you think is happening. It does look like the battle has been brought to the courtroom. What's your take?
Thank you, Shehu. I must say that the developments in Edo State concerning what is going on, well, quite interesting. First, let me address the point made by my brother and colleague on the other side. And that is the point that you do not put other parties on notice on ex parte applications. That's why they are ex parte, where you have sufficiently urgent situations, the courts can proceed. Now, let us look at what he is talking about. When an ex parte order is granted, by the rules, you have 7 days to apply to set it aside if you are affected by an ex parte order. And so the resort to petition against judicial officers for orders they make, where you have alternative routes to deal with those orders, for me, it doesn't speak well. It doesn't speak well. It is not an option to be taken. Judicial processes appeal against them and get those orders reversed. But let us come. In the suit in Kano, there is no reference to the case in Abuja. So the question of a judge trying to set aside an order made in Abuja does not even arise in the first place. Secondly, the person who initiated that suit in Kano was not a party to the case in Abuja. Oshiomhole himself is a defendant in that case. So this insinuation of an abuse of court process or Oshiomhole rushing to Kano to obtain an order is not even an issue at all, because...
So, Mr. Heigelwa, in simple terms, Justice Alagwa is not wrong. Is that what you're saying?
If you brought a case before him and he saw the need for an urgent situation and made an order, which you have a right to bring applications to vacate within 7 days, then he was acting within the confines of the law. So,
yes,
now let me address
yes or no. Just a moment. Mr. Igelwa, yes or no, what Mr. Mwanta filed today before the NJC, is it null and void, or it's valid? Is it valid?
For me, there is no basis for a petition against the judicial officer in these circumstances.
All right, we will take a break.
Explain. Now, the judge is exercising judicial functions. And those orders, any order made by court is an appealable order. This one, you have a double-edged sword against it. You can apply to set it aside. You can also appeal against it. A petition is not a means of getting an order vacated. I repeat, a petition is not a means of getting an order vacated. Now, let us come back to the history of these cases. Edo case, Edo House of Assembly case was heard in Port Harcourt. The case where an injunction was granted was heard in Abuja, and that order made. And then another order from Kano. Show me one order made within Edo State that now makes the one made in Kano so offensive to the persons on the other side. But let us come to this. You want Oshiomhole out at all costs. It is a process that must start from his polling units in his ward. The person driving this whole process, who happened to have been the chairman, former chairman of the party in the unit, had filed a case against Oshiomhole last year. That case was in Abuja. When objection was raised to that case, he filed a notice of discontinuance. I was in court on that day to argue that as long as parties had gone beyond the point where they were no longer in control of proceedings, the court should dismiss the case and not merely strike it out. The court, in its wisdom, struck out that case and made an order of cost for 100,000 naira. We had pointed out to the court that it was a dishonest notice of discontinuance because as at that date, another suit had been filed, which is the suit that led to the injunction of Wednesday. And that this man who is the first plaintiff here is the fourth plaintiff in that other case, making that case an abuse of court process. Well, the court allowed that to go. Now, the case that led to that injunction, this same man brought an application that his name be struck out. Now, probably because of the experience of the lawyers who were in court on that day, if that man was a sole plaintiff in the case and he said, strike my name out, he wouldn't have said that. All he would have done would have been to withdraw the case.
All right.
At the point where he brought an application to... Yes, no, just 1 minute, Shehu.
Yeah, you need to wrap up that line of thought quickly. Yeah, because I need to get some questions in also.
At the point where he brought an application to strike his name out of the case, he couldn't have gone back to say, I am withdrawing that application. Now, an objection to jurisdiction was taken. The court substantially dismissed it, but ordered that pleadings be filed and that the case could not be tried on an originating summons. Having made that order, the case became inchoate, and the court couldn't have proceeded to make an order of injunction until that suit had been reconstituted.
All right.
So
just a moment. Mr. Adaeze, to what end do you hope, or what do you hope to achieve with what you did today against Justice Alagwa? You heard what your colleague there has said, that what you did is invalid, is null and void. It doesn't make sense. That's what he was making inference to.
I think I have to make a quick clarification. Basically, it is not a petition, but a complaint. He's a very senior lawyer. And of course, we have what they call the judicial discipline regulations, which was made, sometime in 2017. And what we are looking at, unlike a petition, because he was talking of a petition, he said, oh, it's not valid. But it was a petition that made him to lose his position as a senior advocate. Somebody wrote a petition, they looked at it, and he was stripped of that title. I mean, he's here. It's a national thing. It's not something that is personal. But basically, the issue is clear. First, the order had to do with the resolution of the world executives. Were they joined as party? The answer is no. Who was the beneficiary of that particular order? Oshiomhole, a defendant. It doesn't make sense. A court grants an order in favor of a defendant. I mean, that was an own goal.
So Mr. Mwanza, what I'm trying to get a sense of, a lot of people, because you lawyers confuse the average Nigerians with the legal terminologies. Give us what exactly is the purpose that you hope to achieve with what you did today.
It's not a purpose to achieve. Nobody is trying to make somebody a scapegoat. But the question is, the image of our profession, and when I say our profession, I mean both the bar and the bench, is highly tattered. Because Nigerians see our profession, that is the weak profession, especially the judiciary, as the last hope of the common man. If an order was granted in a very vexatious, in a very, incredible manner, it is the duty of members of that profession to ask the body saddled with the duty of entertaining such complaints, because the average man.
Let me go back because of our time.
To make this
apologies, please. I need to button because Mr. Higelua needs to also come into the conversation. Mr. Higelua, where do you go from here, especially if you're advising, legally speaking, advising Mr. Oshiomhole? What are the options before him now?
Now, when the order was made on Wednesday, a notice of appeal was filed, and a motion for stay of execution was also filed. It is clear from our jurisprudence and our practice that once you have a stay of execution filed, even when not granted, things must remain in the status quo. Having filed a motion for stay, until that motion is dismissed, the status quo before that day remains. So he will remain, in my humble opinion.
In essence, before the determination of this case, how long can Mr. Oshiomhole be in office?
Until his application for stay is dismissed.
When
and
will
of
that
course,
be?
he has a right to also approach the Court of Appeal with another application. No, the times and the dates are fixed by the court, not by litigants. When the court gives a date, that will be argued before the courts.
In your own thinking, who do you think are the ones behind those who want Mr. Oshiomhole out? Who do you think are these people are?
Yes. Shehu, you would have noticed the difference in nomenclature between me and my colleague here. He works as an aide to the governor. I am strictly a private legal practitioner. I am not a member of their party, and I do not know what happens within their political party. Let's
close. And let's give Mr. Mwanzi this opportunity to throw in his final thought. Your governor, Godwin Obaseki, I understand that they are saying within the APC that is one that is leading those who want him out. Is that true?
Basically, the national chairman, of course, was suspended by his ward executives, and that suspension was ratified by the local government executives. And, of course, the governor is a member of the state executive committee of the party that ratified his suspension because the man has been creating crisis. No governor will want somebody who was the successor creating crisis to remain in an office that he has been suspended from.
All right.
And of course, the court haven't granted that order. The governor is very comfortable with what is happening. Okay. But at the same time, my colleague here should also realize that we are all stakeholders in this.
All right. We're out of time. Mr. Adaze Mwanta, thank you so much for coming. And Mr. Ikide Ehigelwa, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. That's our show for tonight. It's Friday also. Thank God it's Friday, they say. Many thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Oshiomhole. Bye for now.